So Islam has, I think it'd be good to maybe lay this out for people.
Step back.
The articles of faith and the pillars of Islam. So the articles of faith, there are 6 articles of faith, and this kind of lays the foundation for the creed of Islam. So belief in God, belief in the angels, belief in the messages, belief in the messengers, okay? Belief in the day of judgment, and belief in divine decree.
Mhm.
So these are the 6 articles of faith. Belief in God, belief in the angels, belief in the messages being the scriptures, belief in the messengers being the prophets, belief in the day of judgment, and belief in divine decree. That's what you have to believe to be a Muslim. You have to believe in those 6 things, right? And then you go to the pillars of faith. The 5 pillars of faith are sort of, or they make up the structure of those articles of faith, the practice of the Muslim. So to be a Muslim, you testify that there's only one God worthy of worship and unconditional obedience, and then you testify that Muhammad is the final messenger of God. That's the first pillar. It's the actual testimony and entering into Islam. Then it's the 5 daily prayers, practicing the 5 daily prayers at least as a bare minimum obligation, the mandatory charity, which is called the zakat, that Muslims have to give at least 2.5% of their retained earnings to specific categories of charity. Then it is the fasting of the month of Ramadan, the mandatory fasting of the month of Ramadan. And then it's the Hajj, if you can do so, the pilgrimage, if you can do so once in your lifetime. So those are the 5 pillars of Islam. So Ramadan is a month in which Muslims engage in this incredible spiritual boot camp. Now, fasting can mean different things to different people. When we fast from before sunrise to sunset for an entire month, and there's no food or water, period. And no intimacy as well. So you would abstain from intimacy with your spouse as well in that time. No food or water, no bread, no nothing. You don't eat or drink, even if you live in Texas, where you get these long, hot days in the summer. And of course, Islam is on a lunar calendar, so it moves every year, about 10 days earlier. During that time, you restrict the intake to the body so that you can focus on the intake of the soul. So instead of being focused on consumption, constant consumption, you are consuming words of remembrance, words of prayer. You're to be hyper conscious of not doing anything that would spiritually validate your fast, just as you would physically. So just like you won't eat or drink, you certainly won't engage in sin, though you shouldn't engage in sins throughout the year. But, you're not going to speak words of evil. You're not going to gossip or slander. You try to fast with your eyes, not look at things that are not praiseworthy. So you try to engage in a wholesome act of disciplining yourself with a consciousness of God, but then channel that into engaging the soul instead, exercising the soul instead. And what you'll find with Muslims in this act of God consciousness, where they reduce the consumption, is they become far more grateful for the blessings of God, because throughout our lives, we just take sips of water, we eat what we can, we snack. When you're abstaining from that, you become so much more grateful for that sip of water, so much more grateful for that bite of food, so much more aware of the one who provided those blessings to you, so much more aware of those that don't have the same access to those blessings that you have. So you also develop a sense of empathy for the poor that don't have access to those blessings on a regular basis, that can't help but fast. And on top of that, again, spiritually, you are engaged in extra reading. At that time, people are listening to more lectures. People are engaged in extra acts of devotion, extra acts of charity. Muslims are most charitable in the month of Ramadan. So you just feel great. And it's hard to explain to someone that doesn't do it, because it sounds like torture to people, right? What in the world are you doing, 4 o'clock on a hot Texas day, not eating or drinking? You're probably dehydrated and cranky, have a caffeine headache, and you probably can't wait for this month to be over. But in reality, you talk to Muslims, their favorite time of the year is Ramadan. You feel amazing. You feel absolutely incredible, because you taste a different type of consumption. You feed your soul for a change. And in that process, you connect with God in a way that you simply could not without the distractions of the day-to-day throughout the year. Now, it's good that it's one month of the year, because it's honestly physically taxing, right? So it gives you a chance to experience it for that 1 month, but then you're encouraged to fast a few days of the year as well outside of the month of Ramadan.